を誘いに来たんだぜあいつら。すげえよお前の親父さんは。
これから覚えていけばいい。一つ一つ。空っぽなら何でも入るじゃろ。生まれ変わるつもりがあるならむしろ空っぽの方がいい。
おい、焦った。
The death of Askeladd at the end of Season 1 of Vinland Saga is the moment I realized that this story was something special, and it's because of the way he completely picks apart Thorfinn's life up to this point and his pursuit of vengeance. He spent his entire boyhood consumed with one thing, and that's the murder of this man for the death of his father in a duel. Now, the concept of revenge has been a key component in storytelling for as long as storytelling has been around. It's the simplest way to establish a conflict for the main character to overcome. And in most stories, when the character finally does achieve vengeance, they're usually rewarded with a happy ending. This couldn't be further from the truth in Vinland Saga. Instead of feeling that sense of relief after 11 years that the man who killed his father is finally dead, Thorfinn's distraught. Now, some might think that it's because he wasn't the one to put the blade in Askeladd, but it's not that. It's because of what Askeladd tells him in his dying breath. How do you plan to live your life when I'm not around? The moment Thor's died is the first time in Thorfinn's life when he was truly empty. Thorfinn's entire being has been driven by this one goal since he was a boy. This pursuit of vengeance and killing Askeladd the honorable way led Thorfinn to become his own personal killing machine, capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the most vicious monsters in the world. He was willing to participate in wars, pillage small villages, and murder countless people, including elderly and children, all while feeling very little remorse in the process. The only thing he felt emotions towards was when he confronted Askeladd. He's completely fine with murdering innocent civilians in cold blood, but can't do the same with Askeladd because that's exactly how he murdered Thor's and would make him just as evil. Thorfinn became the exact opposite of what his father wanted him to be. Thor's lessons of non-violence, forgiveness, and not needing to shed blood in order to be a true warrior all got thrown out the window after he died. Thorfinn believes that murdering Askeladd, but doing it properly through a duel, is what his father would have wanted, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. The reason this story doesn't allow Thorfinn to get the satisfaction of murdering Askeladd is because he wouldn't have really avenged his father or his wishes. It would have solidified him as an emotionless killer with a skewed sense of justice. He's lived his entire life driven to avenge someone who doesn't want to be avenged, and now that Askeladd is dead, he is truly empty. This is the state we see Thorfinn in at the start of Season 2, truly alone. Not only does he not have any friends, family, or comrades to rely on, he's alone within himself. We see that he's only really human in flesh. Inside, he feels no emotions and has no purpose, nothing to live for. The reason I love this season is because it shows us the entirety of Thorfinn's rebuild, including these moments of extreme lifelessness. He's an empty vessel. Nothing inconveniences him, nothing brings him happiness. He just works as a slave because what else is there to do? He had the fighting capability to resist being captured, but what's the point? These moments are key in showing us just how low of a point Thorfinn's at in his life. However, we see in his dreams that there's something calling to him.
I'm missing something important. Something that I knew while I was dreaming.
That missing piece comes into fruition after being confronted by Snake. Thorfinn, who just moments ago was getting cut up and whipped with no hesitation, defended himself when the possibility of death finally approached him. And in that moment, he rediscovered his purpose in life. To answer the question, why do I want to live? Why did I defend myself when I thought death would bring me peace? The journey to find this answer first starts with his own self-reflection about his actions and where they've led him up to this point. He admits that all he knows is the battlefield, bloodshed, and hatred. He admits that he doesn't show that same hatred for Askeladd anymore, and because of this, he's conflicted. This reflection period culminates in what I consider to be the best episode of the series, Season 2, Episode 9. In this episode, Thorfinn dreams about confronting the two most prominent figures in his life, his father and Askeladd. His father confronts him about his wrongful attempt of vengeance and murdering innocent people using the knife he gave him strictly for self-defense. Thors also apologizes for leaving him too soon before he could teach him everything he needed to know. Thorfinn is then swallowed up by monsters and brought down to Hell, where he's surrounded by crazed warriors covered in blood. This is where he gets confronted by Askeladd. He's stuck hanging on, not just by a cliff, but hanging on to this empty shell in order to avoid confronting himself. We learn that the warriors in this place are actually every single person that Thorfinn has killed. And we finally get to see this empty man feel real emotions for the first time in years. He finally begins to see the true consequences of his actions and the demons those actions have brought inside him. Askeladd then tells him probably the most important piece of advice he will ever hear. The reason he's in this place isn't to feel sadness or guilt, but to keep pushing forward. It's to recognize your past actions and, instead of kicking them away, use them to climb to a new peak and become the true warrior his father wished for him to become. The quote that I showed at the beginning of this video comes from a little before this moment, and it's probably my favorite quote from the series. When you're empty, you can be filled with anything. In fact, it's better to be empty if you wish to be reborn. The reason Thorfinn became the person we saw in Season 1 is because he was filled with all the wrong morals by the wrong people in his state of emptiness. And the reason he was able to overcome those demons is due to what he became filled with in his second state of emptiness. People criticize Season 2 for not being as action-packed and fight scene heavy as Season 1, but I actually really appreciate that they took their time to show the full process of Thorfinn's rebirth. From those dull moments chopping wood to his confrontation with Snake and this dream sequence. Vinland Saga has one of the best portrayals of personal growth I've ever seen in a piece of fiction. It's a story set in one of the most violent periods in human history, with all the potential in the world for being a top tier action series, but instead values themes of forgiveness and non-violence. Thorfinn's redemption should go down as one of the best ever in storytelling, and it all began with overcoming his emptiness. Thanks for watching.